Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. And please stop calling me Roger.
That's what happens when you're by the railroad.
There you go. Okay. Is that the common? Is the Roger the common? It's not 10-4. I guess it's Roger, isn't it?
Exactly. Roger means understood.
Okay. Yeah, because it seems to me the first time I was at Dave and I was doing 10-4 and either you or Dave or somebody corrected me and it's like it's Roger and it's not 10-4. That's CB talk or radio talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Or police car talk, I guess. So why are you here, Rich?
I'm here because I was asked to be here, Lionel.
Oh, okay. This is, remember when you and I met at the Station Inn in Cresson, Pennsylvania?
Yes, I do.
And we were there with like about 28 other gentlemen?
That's a nice way to characterize them, sure.
Yeah. And we spent time sitting on the porch, and we spent time on the, you guys call it the ledge, don't you?
Yep, on the far side of Horseshoe Curve.
Yep, the west side of Horseshoe Curve, which is actually very cool. It's a bit of a climb.
Yes, it is.
It's the first part isn't too bad, but then you get towards the end. It's for all intents and purposes straight uphill.
Yeah, it's very steep.
Very steep, and so I just put all my stuff on your back, and you carry it all up.
Glad to help.
Yeah, I have like a 5-gallon cooler and a chair, and I have some photography equipment and in a bag, and I just put it all on your back and with all your other stuff, and say I'll meet you at the top, Rich.
Yeah, and then when you're not looking, I give some to my son, and he takes it.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I saw your son Andrew hooked up with the Iron City guys.
Yes,
Iron City N Scale guys.
Yeah, so there was a train show in, I think it's Monroeville, which is east of Pittsburgh. A couple, 20 minutes east of Pittsburgh, something like that. He lives just west of Pittsburgh, and so he was able to meet up with him there. They had a good time meeting with, he met Brad and he met Tofi, right?
Right, yeah, Tofi. Pat, the other guy.
Yeah.
The other fellow. And now Brad, apparently they're referring to Brad as Groucho. I don't know why, but I could have told them that. Okay. You got to give Williamson a wide berth. There's just no two ways about it.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah. So how did your son end up in Pittsburgh?
My son, when he was looking at colleges, looked at colleges in the Pittsburgh area. One of them was Robert Morris University, and that's where he ended up attending college and graduating from there. And right out of college, he got a job at PNC Bank, which is a very large banking company that's based in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And he's been there ever since.
Ah, cool. And does he like Pittsburgh?
Yeah, he loves it.
Is he a Penguins fan or is he a New Jersey Devils fan?
He is I'm very proud to say, New York Ranger fan.
Ah, okay. Very acceptable.
He goes to some Penguins games. He has the opportunity to go to the games. But he has not lost his North Jersey, New York fandom of the Rangers and the New York Mets. Those are his
all right, cool.
teams.
The Rangers, Mark Messier.
Yeah.
Did I not see a post by your son that he was trying to get to every NHL arena in North America?
Yes, he's on that quest right now. I think he has 9 left to do.
Yeah, and I think this spring or something, he's hitting Calgary and Edmonton and
Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's getting, and Winnipeg, I believe also. I think he's getting 4 on one trip. I guess it's after the new year.
And how did he get started on that, do you know? Obviously.
He loves hockey.
Yeah.
Right? And so for a time while he was a student and a grad student, he was the equipment manager for the Robert Morris women's hockey team. Robert Morris is a small school, but they play Division I NCAA hockey. And so he spent 2 years, traveling with the women's team and I think got a little bit of the taste of going to different arenas as part of that. And he's had the opportunity to travel around, and he's also made a number of friends. Like I'm sure all teams have this, right? Little fan clubs or whatever. And so some of these trips he's gone on have been with other Ranger fans that he met, through online.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. His neatest story was they went to Montreal to see the Rangers play the Canadiens. And as they're walking down the street the day before the game or the day of, I don't know, which was, there were four of them walking down the street, and they see a guy walking the other way, dressed pretty nicely, and somebody says, "Hey, that's Henrik Lundqvist." So they go over and stop him, and he was very gracious and shook all their hands and took pictures with them, and so he was very, very excited about that. That chance meeting.
My New York Rangers. Do we have time for a little story?
I do. I don't know about you.
Okay. My New York Rangers story is my dad worked for IBM in Toronto, and they had their own golf course. IBM only ever had 2 golf courses in all of North America, maybe the world. I don't know. One was in Endicott, New York.
Next to Binghamton, yep.
Yeah, and for some strange and peculiar reason, there was one in Toronto. And it was originally a 9-hole course, and they sold that for $1 bazillion, and then they bought a really nice 18-hole course on the outskirts of Toronto. And my dad, and it was very family orientated, so my dad on his way to work, when I was in my 10 to 14-year-old stage, he would drop me off many's a day. He would drop me off on the way to work with $5, which would allow me to eat just about as much as I possibly could, play pool, ping pong, whatever I wanted to do, and golf. And so I was, an avid golfer at the age of 12. And the guys in the pro shop knew me and blah, blah, blah. And I liked to play by myself a lot of the time because I was a kid, right? And I didn't want to hang around with adults. And this one day, I go into the pro shop, and the old guy that ran the pro shop, who knew me by name by this time, said to me, "Today you got to play with a couple of visitors." And I said, I don't want to. And he says, "Well, you got to, because these 2 guys have never played the course, and we need somebody to show them around." And I went, "Okay." And she says, "It's these 2 fellas over there." And I turn around, and one of them is Brad Park.
Oh my gosh.
and he walks up to me, and the other guy was an NHLer too, but he was a journeyman. But the one, Brad Park, walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, my name's Brad Park." And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I played 18 holes of golf with Brad Park and showing them around the course and the whole 9 yards. And, it was a day. And of course, my dad comes to pick me. And of course, we get to the end, and Brad gives me like a couple of dozen balls, and, we go in the pro shop, and he buys me a glove and whatever else I wanted. And we get to it was just about that time, my dad was pulling up to pick me up, and he was over in the parking lot, and I'm over there waiting for him. And I'm like, Dad, guess what? I played golf with Brad Park today. And he's like, "Yeah, sure. What are you talking about, Brad Park?" And I said, "Really? I did. And then I saw them walking, they were on the, a third of the way across the parking lot. I said, "Brad, would you please come and say hi to my dad?" And I'll never. And my dad's like, "Holy crap." So yeah, that's my New York Rangers story.
That's cool. Yeah, he was, when I was young and first paying attention to hockey, he was on the Rangers.
Yeah.
That was before he went to the Bruins. So.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
So the reason we're here, Rich, and the reason you're here is because we're introducing part 1 of the Cresson Chronicles. So while I was there, I took my little recording stuff, and I interviewed a few people, as I do every year, which is a fun thing to do, sitting on the front porch, looking out over the across the way to the tracks, which are like 100 feet from the front porch of the Station Inn in Cresson, Pennsylvania.
Something like that, yeah.
And I think it's stationinpa.com, I think is the website for that.
That's correct.
Owned by our buddy Alex Lang and his lovely wife. Hey, Alex, how you doing? And I'm assuming Alex listens to the podcast, and some of them twice.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. And so anyways, I interviewed this year. I only interviewed like 6 people, but each interview was like 25 to 35 minutes long. So we ended up with 2 full shows worth of Cresson interviews. And the first one involves a fella I never met before. And his name is, don't tell me, let me guess, it's right here. John Zelehoski?
Zelehoski.
Yeah. I asked you first.
A good Irish name.
Yeah. Kind of like Wisniewski. Well, both you guys end up with a ski at the end, so you must know each other, do you?
Yeah, well, and the whole end of the alphabet thing too.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So yeah, do you know Do you know John?
I do. I met him through the Onondaga Cutoff. I couldn't give you the exact story of how he came to be connected with Dave in the Cutoff, but he's a regular operator there, very exuberant, outgoing guy, and likes to rail fan, pays attention to the Facebook groups all the time about what's going on the Pittsburgh line and on the Lehigh line in New Jersey. And nice guy. Very nice guy.
He seemed like a great guy. He was constantly saying, I never finish any of my stories. And I'm like, you can hear me going, uh-huh.
Yeah, I believe he's an educator by trade.
A history teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was very exuberant. That was a great interview. And then we also talked to a fellow named Doug Watts. You ever heard of Doug Watts?
Of course.
Yeah.
Doug Watts, in case you didn't see it, was just featured in an article in Model Railroader.
Oh, yeah, with something to do with radio time or something on the Onondaga Cutoff.
Well, no, I think that was in perhaps Basic as Model Railroading or some other publication.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah,
This article was on itinerant model railroaders. And by itinerant, it means people who travel around. In other words, people who don't necessarily have their own layout, but who are big-time model railroad operations guys and who participate at lots of different layouts. And Doug certainly fits that bill.
Who wrote that article?
I don't recall.
Okay.
It was not Uncle Dave.
Okay. All right. Cool.
It might actually have been Eric White.
Itinerant. That's a pretty big word. So by the end of the weekend, we met. I had met Doug before, but by the end of the weekend, Doug and Alex and everybody there had agreed that the Station Inn was going to be occupy one of the tables at the Springfield show at the big Modeler's Life booth at the Springfield show.
Oh wow, exciting!
Yeah, so Doug was sending me all his information, and so I'll post his cell phone number in the write-up.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Doug used to work for Conrail, and you have to be careful when you're around Uncle Dave because anytime you mention Conrail, he starts getting the shakes or he gets all sweaty. And it's like, so you have to be very careful when you're around Uncle Dave and talk about Conrail or Conrail employees. That gets him all sweaty and excited.
Yeah, so I think he has a reverence to the folks that made Conrail work.
Yes.
Made Conrail tick.
He does. Dave has a reverence to a lot of things. And finally, on this particular show, I think the lineup is John, then Doug, and then finally we have this guy, or Ralph might be ahead of John, and it might be Doug. I don't know exactly what the order is, and don't hold me to that. But finally on this particular show is our buddy Ralph Heiss.
Great.
And I always want to refer to Ralph, and I haven't yet in person, but I always want to refer to Ralph as Ralphie Boy. He just gives me that, hey, Ralphie Boy.
Yeah. It's a good honeymooner's memory there.
Yeah, I know. And I just, Ralph is a wonderful guy. He's just got a great personality. And I just always want to go, hey, Ralphie Boy.
Yeah. And Ralph is someone who's been seriously in the hobby really all of his adult life. I can't tell you when he started, but I know he was a very early in his time involved in operating at places like Harold Worthwine's Big Erie Railroad layout and others like that. So he's been at it a long time.
We were standing on the front porch, and it was you and me, and I guess Doug was there because apparently you remember But I said, hey, man, that would make a great podcast because Ralph seems to have operated on every model railroad since the beginning of time in the Northeast. And then Doug has operated on a ton of them, and you've operated on a ton of them. And I thought, man, that would be I think I said out loud, that would be a great podcast with you three guys talking about all the layouts that you've operated on. And I mean,
well, it would be great for each of us to reminisce. I don't know how exciting of a podcast it would be for anybody else, but
But does that really matter? So long as we're having fun?
No, of course not.
Exactly, because that's what I came up with that. I don't know, somebody wrote in a very pleasant email once about me yelling at Dave or something, Uncle Dave, and I remember thinking to myself, yeah, but what you got to remember is this podcast is really just my recorded conversations. It's just, it's people I want to talk to. And so then I end up recording it. And that's how the podcast was born. And I mean, it's just so much fun talking. And then I thought, well, what a great conversation. I would love to listen to your guys' stories about operating on all these layouts. And that's the seed. That is the seed of that particular podcast. And if people start falling asleep halfway through, well, then they'll get a great night's sleep. And if not, I think it'll be very interesting because also, not only could we cover layouts that you've operated on, but we could also cover the pros and cons of what you need to do if you're a guest operator on somebody's layout.
Right. Well, that would certainly have, say, more universal applicability to the whole listenership.
Right.
It wouldn't be geographically focused the way our conversations about the individual layouts might be.
Well, yeah. And I think everybody should understand. I would say you and I have become pretty darn good friends, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think everybody should understand that I kind of make you nervous whenever I'm talking.
Well, anytime you ask me a question about my work. So.
Or talk about anything. But you're getting used to me, so that's cool. And see, the problem now, what we've done, you know what we've done? We've broken a golden rule of AML podcasting. We talked for 18 minutes on an introduction.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. So we're going to leave the introduction, and I'll see you after the show. And we'll summarize, and then we will leave. We will end the show. So do you know what you have to do now?
Yes, we're going to go to Cresson, where we say, subway chime, go.
Mosquito trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Okay, now I'm here with Doug Watts. This is a continuation of the Cresson Chronicles. Last year it was What's the Deal with Dave, but we think we either figured that out or we've lost interest. And now I'm calling it the Cresson Chronicles. And we're here with Doug Watts. And I got a lot of questions for you, Doug.
Okay.
Are you having fun?
Yes, absolutely.
What's the most interesting thing you've seen so far this year?
On the railroad?
Yeah. Why? Has there been interesting stuff away from the railroad?
Yeah, there's always interesting things, Lionel. Most interesting thing on the railroad? I'd have to think about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that.
How many trains did you think? What day did you get here?
I came in on Thursday afternoon between noon and 1 o'clock.
And where did you come from?
Came from Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania.
How far away is that?
It's a 3.5-hour drive.
So that's probably east of here?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know you. Okay, I did know you lived. And how far is that from Dave's place? 2 hours?
No, for me to get to Dave's place, it's about, depending on traffic, it's about an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
No.
And how often do you get to attend Dave's operating sessions?
I try to make each session that he has, unless there's a schedule conflict.
So I got some interesting intel about you.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you ready for it?
I guess.
So right now, as we're recording this, me, Rich Winiski, the Wiz, and Kelly are in the midst of interviewing Ken McQuarrie.
Oh, okay.
And we've interviewed him twice so far.
Okay.
And I don't believe I've even scratched the surface of the information there is to obtain from Ken.
Okay.
And so then Rich, being Rich, says, well, I don't think I have much to add. And I'm like, well, you've been there. And then today when I was interviewing Rich during the Cresson Chronicles, we got talking about that. I mean, Ken is a lovely man.
Yes, absolutely.
He's a great guy. I really enjoyed talking to him. It's really fun talking to him. And Rich told me you've been there like 100 times.
Oh, to Ken's?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have operated at one of the last sessions that Ken had when he lived in Fraser at the townhouse before he
Really?
Before he started building this layout.
Really?
And then I had the opportunity to be part of the team that I wasn't there all the time, but I was a part of the team that helped build the layout.
Really?
Yes, sir.
You might have to come on the remaining episodes of the 47-part Ken McQuarrie trilogy.
Okay.
I might have to send you a headset and get your audio up to speed and get
Okay.
you on there with us.
Okay. Sounds good.
Because you might be able to fill in some holes. Because, Ken sometimes gets excited and he talks pretty fast.
Yeah. Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
But he's a fun guy to talk to and a fun guy to be with for sure. So what was that layout like then?
The layout in Fraser was a smaller smaller version of what he has now. He always has depicted the buffalo line, and so that was a smaller footprint. And like I said, I was only there once, but had a really good time. There was a lot of activity and good crew of folks, good operations.
How many people did he have operating that?
Let's see, Lionel. I'm going to take a guess. Maybe 15.
Okay. And what was it? Do you remember the overall size?
No, but Ken could tell you that. I mean, I know he knows.
Was it a full basement kind of thing?
Yeah, my recollection is it occupied the full basement, but it wasn't a large basement. It was a townhouse.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And
It was multi-level.
right.
It was multi-level, and there was a lot there, but it wasn't jammed in.
Yeah. So how did you get to meet Ken originally?
I met Ken through a round-robin Monday night group, and I met him I met him through the Monday night group.
But you're quite a ways from Ken, aren't you?
Yeah, interestingly enough, where I used to live when I was in Delaware County, I was about an hour away.
Right.
And now being in Gilbertsville, just above Pottstown, I'm about a half an hour away.
Was that all?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I keep thinking for some strange peculiar reason you're north, but you're not north. You're south of Dave.
Oh yeah, I'm southwest of Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
between Philadelphia and Reading.
Okay. All right. So you're not that far from Tom Jacobs' place, Robesonia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. He's on the west side of Reading. That's about an hour's drive for me,
Okay.
depending on traffic.
Let's just review for everybody, for the folks. I'm going to put my sunglasses on. I hope you don't mind.
Nope.
Let's just review for the folks that you worked for Conrail,
Yes, I did.
and you're now retired.
Correct.
And how many years did you work for Conrail?
I was with Conrail almost 14 years.
Was that the last railroad you worked for?
No, that was the first of 5.
That's right. I remember that from last year, our discussion last year, because you had trouble holding a job or something. You kept closing down railroads. What was your job again? You were something to do with it was in the office, wasn't it, primarily?
Oh, Conrail?
Yeah.
I started out as a trainmaster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a trainmaster, hired out in September of '85. Was in the trainmaster's training program for 4.5 months.
You must have been pretty young.
I was 30. Yeah.
Did you run into the problem of, the guys wouldn't respect you because you were new and you were a trainmaster and you'd never been on the road and blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, everybody gets tested, so yeah, absolutely got tested. I'd push the edge of the envelope, but, basically my philosophy was to treat everybody with respect. Don't come in like I'm the new sheriff in town.
Right.
Ride with the crews, talk with them, find out what's going on, and, let's figure it out from there.
Okay. And what exactly, if you don't mind telling us, what exactly is, in general terms, what does a trainmaster do?
Trainmaster's responsible for either a terminal or a road territory and safe and efficient movement of traffic to and from the customers, or if it's a road territory across his or her portion of the railroad. Responsible for all of the train and engine crews. The engineers, of course, are responsible to the road foreman. In my time, I had conductors and brakemen, so those were the folks that I was responsible for. But I was ultimately responsible for the entire crew.
Right. And how many train crews would you have under you?
It depended on the terminal. I worked at multiple terminals in North Jersey, so like Oak Island was a large terminal. I don't remember the number of crews, but my last terminal was Brown's Yard in Old Bridge, and I had 6 crews there. I had 3 yard jobs and 3 locals.
All right. Is it a complicated job, or is it? I mean, it sounds kind of like a cross between dispatching and being the boss.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. But it basically, the big challenge there was, during my time, the big challenge was balancing your budget and making sure that you're getting all of your customers served. Because like my last terminal, that was totally customer focused with the industries that we served. But then when I look at the other terminals like South Kearney at the trail van facility, that was all high priority intermodal traffic.
Okay.
Responsible for on-time dispatchment of my trains that I was responsible for during my tour, and also safe arrival of the inbound trains, getting the trailers grounded, and then getting them out the gate.
How hard is it to unload tractor trailers off of? That seems like it's a labor-intensive job, getting tractor trailers on and off flat cars.
Again, going back to when I was a trainmaster from 86 to 88, we used piggy packers, so it was all mechanized. I mean, I know a lot of terminals now have overhead cranes, but we had piggy packers, very talented and skilled drivers, don't get in their way when it was time to unload trains or to load trains, because everything was time sensitive.
Yeah, piggy packers are like little tractors, right?
No, they're like it's like a giant forklift.
Oh, okay.
They could reach over top of the trailer and lift the trailer up.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
And somehow it goes down and there's arms underneath the trailer.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's 4 arms, 2 on either side. And most of the times the packer drivers had a spotter that would help them position the trailer as they were putting it down on the flat car.
Okay. And then there must have been a guy on the flat car securing it to the flat car,
yeah,
like
basically
locking it in?
Basically the securement was through the fifth wheel.
Really?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yep.
Wow. But was his spotter the guy? Was there a separate guy that made sure the thing clipped into the fifth wheel?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that. I believe it was the spotter, although it may have been someone from the car department. And there's just certain things that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm overall looking at the terminal, so you know.
Yeah. And how did you get to? So what are some of the? So you've been now operating on Ken McQuarrie's for 100 times roughly since he started building it.
Correct.
So you've been going there since the beginning.
Yeah, he started in '93.
We gotta get you on those interviews.
Other than the time I was in Texas for 8 years, I've been a regular on his crew.
All right. And what is your job?
I've had different jobs there. I started out on Ken's working in the helper pool with the helper locomotives out of Renova Yard over to.
That's what I'd like to do.
Yeah, so I did that. I've been yard master at Renova. I've been out on the yard. I've been out on the road with road trains and locals. So what I've done now is I've gone back. I've left the yard. I've gone back out on the road.
Or have you?
Yeah.
I guess you kind of can pick your job, eh?
Well, it's I told Ken, I said I'd like to do some different things, because one of the things we always try to do is make sure that there's a number of people that know the different jobs.
Yeah.
So if somebody can't make it, then you have somebody else that can step in. Exactly.
How long do you think it would take me to get a chance to run the helpers?
I don't know. We'd have to talk to Ken about that, because everybody thinks, no, it's not as easy as not easy.
No, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And I had helpers on my layouts. I mean, I know the general drift.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, which I really loved. I thought having helpers was the best.
Yeah. Quite challenging.
You got to maintain the speed and everything. It's amazing how much in scale model railroading you can recreate from full size railroading.
Oh yeah, because we and you had helper operations on your layout. You're adjusting for slack in the train. Run out.
Yeah.
So
you can string line it.
Exactly.
I had a couple of guys do that more than once or twice. So how long have you been coming to Cresson?
Let's see. I've been coming to Dave's event since my first invitation was in 2019. I first stayed at the station in the winter of 2013.
And how did you meet Dave?
I met Dave, one of the gentlemen that I was involved in with the Operation Special Interest Group.
Okay.
Had gotten me an invite to Dave's.
And how long have you been going there?
Wow. Okay, let's see. First invite was 2019. I think I started going to Dave's. I may have started going to Dave's 2013, 2014. Maybe.
Okay. and you try to make every one of those sessions.
Absolutely.
And do you try to make all of Ken's sessions?
Yes.
Are there other railroads you operate on where you try to make all the sessions?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You're an operating guy.
Yeah.
Do you have a layout?
No.
You're just
No,
you're kind of like Rich. You're just
right. I was going to build a layout, and I had started putting plans together, and I thought I have the opportunity to operate at a lot of really good layouts, and building a layout, as you know, is a project.
Yeah.
Not that I have a problem with the project, but I thought, you know what? Why?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you had any thoughts of like building a small 2 foot by 4 foot? Switching?
Yeah, I thought about a switching layout. And then I said, I think what I'm going to do is do two things. Three things. One, concentrate on operations at different layouts.
Right.
I have a buddy who lives down in Delaware County. His layout is under construction, and we have weekly work sessions, so I'm doing that. And then the third thing I want to do is get more into detailing rolling stock.
Okay.
You know,
all right.
You know, weathering, detailing, gons, flat cars, open loads, covered hoppers, box cars, detailing, weathering.
And you got plenty of layouts to run your stuff on if you have.
Right. Or if somebody wants me to do some work for them, once I get to the point where I figure I'm proficient enough, and I would say, hey, if you've got some cars you'd like me to handle, I'll take care of it.
Because you're retired now, right?
Correct.
And so is this what primarily fills your time as model railroading?
That's one. The other item would be doing part-time contract consulting in transportation and logistics as opportunities present themselves.
Okay, so what would that be like? Before we do that, I got another question because I've asked this question several times and I have yet to get a satisfactory answer. It's something I just don't understand. I don't understand how railroads make money. So say you take Delaware and Lackawanna,
okay.
GVT, and I don't like to use acronyms, but I was talking to Otto Vondrak, and we were talking about how Doyle McCormick had sold his PA to Genesee Valley Transportation.
Right.
And then with Otto, we started using the acronym GVT. It sounds very hip and cool, but I make sure I always say the full name because there are people in Australia that have no idea what GVT is.
Oh, okay.
Or South Africa, or New Zealand, or Norway, or all the other countries where the podcast is listened to. Or me. So I tried to ask Otto this question, and I said, like a railroad like Delaware Lackawanna, they get a boxcar, and it's going to some industry 12 miles down the line. How do these guys make any money?
Well, you're factoring in pretty much like any business, factoring in what your costs are, and then you're saying, okay, my revenue is going to be X, so the contribution or the return on that needs to be X plus, so that I'm actually making money. And
I know, but I mean, like, what would a railroad like GVT charge back? How much it would cost to move this car from? You pick it up, move it 12 miles down the siding to an industry. They wait 3 days till the guy unloads it, and they pick it up and pull it back. Like, do they make thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars?
Well, we could go to their website, and they may have some of the railroads now. You have the ability to go in, and you can plug in a origin destination pair and a commodity, and they'll give you an approximation as to what the rate would be.
Would it be thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars?
And I'm thinking for a short move, it's probably maybe in the low thousands.
Really, the low thousands just for that. No wonder things cost so much money.
Yeah.
So are railroads just cash cows? I mean,
I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's, there's definitely cost involved. There's cost with labor. There's cost with technology.
Well, sure.
There's cost with maintenance. The big cost is maintenance and keeping your infrastructure in a state of good repair.
Yeah, to keep it moving.
Right.
It just seems to me like there's so many small regional railroads. Locomotives, even used ones, cost huge amounts of money.
Right.
Freight cars, even used ones, cost huge amounts of money. Maintaining track costs huge amounts of money.
Right.
That shipper, that industry 12 miles down the road, they can only sell their product for X number of dollars. So I keep thinking to myself, how do these little railroads make any money? Like, shoving a boxcar 12 miles down the road. You think to yourself, well, it can't be that much money.
I think an advantage there with the smaller roads is some flexibility in work rules.
Okay.
And the the ability to go after traffic that Class 1s have said, yeah, we're not interested, or we just can't do that. And so the smaller roads can provide that level. And I'm not saying the Class 1s don't provide a level of
Right, I
service.
understand.
But as far as the last mile, first mile, the short lines and the regionals can do, in my opinion, a better job consistently.
And that's what you were primarily involved in most of your career, wasn't it? Was logistics and stuff.
Yeah, well, I was fortunate, Lionel, because I started my career in the petroleum industry. And then I had the opportunity to come over to the rail side. So what I did was I have the perspective of the purchaser as well as the provider of transportation services. So I've sat on both sides of the table.
And what do you remember what it was when you were in your late 20s, early 30s that propelled you to wanting to work for the railroad?
I always wanted to work for the railroad.
Just wanted to work for the railroad.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't you think, I think there's way more people that are rail fans that work for the railroad than we really have an idea of.
I agree.
I mean, I know some days it's just a job.
Right.
But I think generally, most of the people that enjoy it or work for it enjoy being part of railroading.
Yeah, I would like to think so. I mean, I found that during my 26-year career that there was people that definitely enjoyed the industry and they enjoyed what they were doing and they had the interest.
Yeah. All right, let's finish up with other layouts that you operate on. So we know that you operate on Dave's OC, Onondaga Cutoff, regularly. We know you operate on Ken McQuarrie's layout regularly. I'm starting to get jealous, by the way. What other layouts do you regularly operate on?
Tony Custer's nickel plate third sub.
I want to go there.
Perry Squires, Pittsburgh, Shawmut, Northern.
I think we should get Perry Squires on the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Do you think he'd come on?
Well,
You know what your job is? Not to ask him, just to say, I've been to Cresson a couple of times, and Lionel Strang's interviewed me and put him on his podcast. It's pretty interesting. That's all you got to do.
Okay.
Just put the bug in his ear.
Okay.
So yeah, and he's got a beautiful layout too, right?
Absolutely. It's museum quality.
How often does he operate?
Let's see. Perry usually operates monthly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any others?
Yes. Dave Olson's Chessie Allegheny sub, Ted Pamperin's CNO New River sub.
What a fantastic layout that Ted Pamperin's layout is.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So that's 6 that you've mentioned. How do you keep them? How do you manage to juggle that schedule?
Fortunately for me, they're not all at the same time. So yeah. So
That's
I
just
can,
a fluke.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Is that it? Those 6?
Oh no, there's others.
All right. Do you have some sort of sliding scale of this is the one I'll miss if I have to miss one?
No, not really. What happens is it depends on if there's something else going on. Like a important consideration in all this for me is my mom, and my mom lives about 50 minutes from me and lives on her own.
Right.
Takes care of herself. She's 93.
Right.
And so she doesn't drive anymore. And so my sister lives near my mom. So my sister and I split responsibility for getting mom to her doctor's appointments and groceries and all that kind of good stuff.
You got to look after mom.
Exactly.
All right. Cool. Anything else we should talk about?
I'm good.
All right. I'm thinking we got to hook you up with. I'm going to send you a headset, and we'll see if we can't get you going on with these Ken McQuarrie interviews.
Okay.
Because we need a guy. Rich has been great, but we also need a guy that has been there even more. Rich wants to run the bomber.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So
yeah, that's a neat local job.
Yeah. So in our last interview with Ken, we've only talked to him twice. I foresee this could go on for years.
Yeah.
For 2 reasons. Ken's got a great personality, and he speaks up, and he also has what might be the largest home private layout in the world. Possibly, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's people that have surmised that, like you have. Yeah, like you said, Ken's a good guy. He's a very effective project manager, as shown by being able to build and expand on the layout. And as I told Ken a number of years ago, his layout, as we're seeing now with other prototype operating layouts, it's a transportation system.
Yeah. 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 I'm so fortunate to have... it's kind of weird. I saw his layout like 20 years ago.
Okay.
And then we saw it again last year at Tomstock when we take our AML Nation yearly get-together, and we went over to Ken's place. And somehow I ended up talking to him when we were downstairs. And I realized, wow, this guy's got a great personality. I got to get him on the podcast. And I mean, there's got to be 100 questions I haven't asked him yet.
Yeah, I can understand.
So, what's your favorite thing about coming to Cresson?
The ability to come out here, relax, watch trains, interact with other folks here at the inn. It's a good place. And for me, this has always been my favorite part of former Conrail was from Banks near Harrisburg out to Johnstown. But in that, there's a subset from Annis, just on the east side of Altoona, to Johnstown. And for me, it's all about the mountain. I first started coming out to this area in the summer of 1978.
Okay.
And absolutely amazing. I mean, the locomotives look different, the paint schemes are different, but the mountain's the mountain.
Yeah, well, sure. They still got to get up and over it, and
right.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah, it's impressive.
I was going to ask. Oh, yeah. This is amazing, really. When you stop and think about it, as we were talking, we're sitting on the porch of the Station Inn in Cresson, Pennsylvania, and right at eye level, like what's that? Maybe 100 feet from us?
Yeah.
No more than 100 feet, because my house is 60 foot long, and it's like my house would go from here to the top of that knoll. It can't be more than, it might even be only be 80 feet. And the track is right at eye level.
Right.
It's like the perfect place to watch trains. You're sitting in the shade in a rocking chair with your soda or whatever your beverage of choice is, and you're right at the track is right at eye level. It's like being in the movies of trains.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like an IMAX theater.
Yeah, it is. It's like an IMAX theater of trains. It's very, very cool. All right, Doug, you're done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Say goodbye, Doug.
Goodbye, Doug.
Here he comes.
Okay, this is our next interview is with
John Zelehoski.
John Zelehoski.
Zelehoski, yes.
And
he's a nice
is-
Polish boy.
And a nice Polish boy.
Yes.
I hope he has some kielbasa with him.
Oh, that would be nice. He does. He better share.
Yeah. So, all right, we've got Ralph Heiss here because he's going to kind of introduce John because you have a bit of history.
I do have a bit of history, and here he comes.
I know, but you keep talking.
Oh yeah, no, I can definitely keep talking about John. He's a good friend of mine. We have
How did you meet?
Through Dave.
Okay.
Through an op session at Dave's, and Dave and I have a lot in common. John and I have a lot in common because our dads both worked for the phone company back in New Jersey.
Okay.
And both introduced us into model railroading.
Right.
And
They both modeled the wrong scales.
yes, they both modeled the wrong scales.
Which was the wrong scale was?
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by that, Johnny? I mean that.
My dad had tons of HO stuff.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, his dad had tons of HO stuff. My dad had tons of Lionel and
Okay.
three rail stuff. And
But somehow you feel like maybe they were collaborated in there.
it's true. John and I, in talking, John is convinced. I don't have any proof of it because I don't ever remember meeting John's dad.
Right.
But that when my dad's three rail club took off, that his dad and their club came and they kind of gave, moral support and got them started on the right foot.
Do you remember the name of your dad's three-rail club?
My dad's was the Northwest New Jersey High Railers.
And did it survive?
Not in name. It got taken over, and that's a
Sad story?
Long sad story for another time. But
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So basically, you've introduced John.
Yeah.
Now, we'll have you hand the microphone over to John,
We can do that.
and you can leave. And
In other words, get the heck out of here.
yeah,
Ralph.
and
Right.
we really don't care where you go.
Exactly.
Just stay out of the studio. All right. Now we're going to talk with John. He's taking a drink.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. Do I have to do any mic check or anything like that to make sure?
No, Mike has checked it for us,
That's good.
and you just got to hold it here.
Okay.
so
yes.
that it's
Like Willie
consistent.
Nelson.
Oh, yeah, exactly, like Willie Nelson. Yeah. See you.
Georgia on my mind.
Yeah, Georgia on my mind. He goes, Georgia, and he's always got the microphone right there.
See, the nice thing about Ralph has a voice where he could sing. I do not have a voice where I could sing, or I would have joined you in that rendition. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you think Ralph has a voice where he can sing?
I'm not saying it's a good voice, but he has a voice where he could sing.
Okay,
Yes.
well, the point is, the thing about opinions is everybody's entitled to one.
Yes.
So,
Nobody cares about one another's, though.
yeah. So what is your deal? What is your, somehow, Ralph thought I should interview you because you are something to do with a three-rail club?
Yes, I have been a member of the New Jersey Independent High Railers, Eastern Division, for it's probably almost 30 years now. And growing up, I had a similar story. Well, how much time do you have? Because
I have plenty of time.
Well, how far back do you want me to go?
I want you to fill us in so that it's easy for people to understand what's happening. So you're a member of the East New Jersey.
Well, yes. Just
Hang on. East New Jersey High Railers.
Independent High Railers, Eastern Division.
There's what?
Independent High Railers, Eastern Division.
And so explain that to me. Why are they independent? Why is there an Eastern Division?
It kind of goes back to the same thing that Ralph was just talking about with his own club.
Right.
There was a club that was created, one of the early people who was involved in three-rail scale, because everyone knows three-rail. They think Lionel.
Right.
They think 6464 boxcars. They think 2023 scout sets running under the Christmas tree, that type of stuff. However, in the 80s is when they started to make prototypical scale trains, and with that's when they started to make layouts as such. As they started to make layouts like that, they came up with a plan, and that's where the modular concept came from. And it was a 3-track mainline. All of the modules had to be 4 foot long, and you needed to have doubles and sets so you can run around. The first club that came out in the New Jersey
have to have
area.
doubles and sets?
Well, yeah, if you're going to, think about it. If you're setting up a layout, it's much easier to have 2 pieces of the layout than have one.
Right.
Because even numbers can expand, odd numbers cannot always.
Odd numbers can what?
Odd numbers, if you have 7 on one side and 9 on the other,
right,
or 7 on one side, 6 on the other, where are you getting the extra piece from? So everybody has at least 2 of the modular sections. This way you can move them around to.
So this is kind of a club thing. Everybody has
yes.
2.
Yes,
All
minimum.
Right. Minimum.
Some of them have 4, some 6, 8, and
so you
so
can't
on
come
and so
to
forth.
you can't come to the show without an even number of
Exactly.
modules.
Yeah, because then it won't set up. We joke about it, as we're setting up our layout before a show. We go to a lot of the Greenberg shows and things like that.
Right.
The Allentown train meet that they have in the fall, the first frost. And, if we're 2 inches short or 3 inches short, because you got to, maneuver everything around. We're like, we need our 3-inch module, or we're 3-track mainline, only 2 tracks line up. We're running 2 tracks this time. Just little things on how you set things up.
Right.
It's very different, though, running a modular layout compared to running something like everything that you've seen. As you've done your Modeler's Life podcasts, you've been able to meet with people that have these beautiful in-home layouts that have incredible detail, flawless track work.
Right.
And it's fantastic because it never has to move.
Yes.
With what we do, we are limited because we got to tear everything down and take it on, we got to take this circus and pack it up for the next town. That's just one of the ways it goes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But that's the modular model railroading.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you guys are, and this, did I get the impression right that it's a scale three rail?
Yes.
Is that kind of what you're?
It's an oxymoron, but that's kind of where we are.
And can you buy scale 3-rail equipment?
Yes. It's, if anything, it's pretty much taken over, I would say, the majority of the hobby.
Oh, really?
Yes. In 3-rail, there are a ton of people who still like Lionel size. They still make the smaller curves. But if you look at the new Lionel catalog or you look at the Atlas O catalog, and you're going to see more than half of what they're producing is scale model trains.
Oh, okay.
And, the thing that kills me, and Ralph always gives me a hard time about, is in HO, 90% of what the manufacturers are producing are prototypical, they're accurate, they're correct. 3-rail, you're lucky if you get 70%.
Right.
Because they do tons of fantasy paint schemes. And that's one of the hard parts of being a scale 3-railer is I've grown up, I'm a history teacher, and
right.
As a history teacher, it has to be accurate. If it's not accurate, I don't want it. I've gone through, I've been doing this since, I was a baby. And back in the day.
Teaching history?
Sure. I feel like I never stopped teaching history. This is why a lot of people have a hard time dealing with me because everything kind of delves into, well, where did this come from? Where did that come from?
Sure, yeah.
But then I never finish any of my stories, just like I never finish any of my projects.
Okay.
I kind of,
But that's a model railroad thing, not finishing your projects.
Oh, of course.
So do you have how many modules do you have?
I have 6. I have
Wow.
6 modules and a corner that we keep together with my friend Doug Burrell down there,
And
who is our...
how do you transport them?
what I do with mine is they actually bolt together in 2s. So I have mine in matching sets of 2, and each of the scenery on mine matches with 2. So I can have just 2 at a show, I could have 4 at a show, or I could have 6 at a show.
Right.
And they can actually break up and go around the corner that I have as well.
So how do you transport them? You bolt them together, bottom to bottom.
Mm-hmm. And
You
put them
slide
in
You slide them in your...
I slide them on my mother's minivan.
Oh, your mother's minivan.
And, as people that know Dave Abeleys, and, they are always loving to see his layout and see the minivan on there. My mom's minivan is fantastic because it's one of those Chryslers that has the seats that stow inside. Don't have to lift anything out, and it'll take a full 4x8 sheet of plywood, and I can put 6 modules, all the scenery that goes with it, as well as 2 or 3 trains in there for a show for the weekend.
6 modules?
Mm-hmm.
So how much scenery is on one of these modules? Is it pretty low-key, like low level?
That's the thing that bothers me the most. The hardest thing in O gauge is to get great looking trees.
Right.
And most HO trees, excellent. You're dealing with half the size. O gauge, they're too delicate. Everything I've tried is too delicate to really transport.
Okay.
And they look good for the first couple of shows, and the next thing you know, they're all broken up. They're missing pieces. Foliage is falling off of it. It's no good anymore.
Here comes a train.
Yeah, we got a train.
Train coming.
Ooh. CHV-9 with the sill stripe.
Looks
Eastbound
like
Manifest.
Some sort of mixed freight.
Yep. Reading and Northern cars.
Oh, yeah. Sweet. All right. So how do you guys have a place to set up your modules?
We do not. That's one of the reasons why we're independent, because we don't have a place that we go to. We don't have a storefront. We don't have a, like a church basement where we set up.
Right.
It's just we set up at the train shows, and that's really about it.
And would that make it hard to stay fluid?
The one good thing about our club is our members have been around for a really long time.
They're not what?
They've been around for a really long time.
Okay.
So we just, like the modular concept, any module can technically go next to any other one. But we've been setting up together for so long that we usually know, all right, I'm going to go next to my friend Joe's, or I'm going to go next to my friend Doug's. And we blend our scenery with one another to make it more of a continuous layout as opposed to Christmas scene, drive-in movie theater scene, dinosaurs eating people scene, that type of stuff, like you see on many modular layouts.
Right. Wow. What's helpers?
No, DPU. ACG though.
I love that. What a great... Here we are. Time is it? 12:41 a.m. Sitting on the front porch of the Station Inn in Cresson, Pennsylvania, beside the Norfolk Southern mainline, and trains are going by. It couldn't be a better setup.
Only in Cresson.
Tell me a little bit more. I'll see if I understand. Like, how did you get into three-rail scale?
It's all because of my father.
Okay.
And, as you've heard many stories, it all goes back to my father. My father grew up in East Brunswick, New Jersey, which is a little town next to New Brunswick. So if anybody's familiar with the Pennsylvania Railroad went through New Brunswick, major station stop. There's a nice arch bridge that goes over the Raritan River there. Broadway Limited, all that stuff. That was electrified corridor with the GG1s. And my father worked for what was originally known as New Jersey Bell. And New Jersey Bell eventually became Bell Atlantic, which eventually became what today is Verizon.
Right.
And he worked in New Brunswick. So my dad was always a train guy too. He was collecting from a young age. He collected HO, he collected O gauge, and like many people, it's with that prospect that one day he'll build that layout.
Yeah.
Never did. Well, he would spend his lunch hours at the New Brunswick train station, and this was in the late 70s. So this is when Conrail had just begun. So he was up there shooting pictures of all those mixed lash-ups of freights going through, the ends of the MP54s, the early Amtrak, early New Jersey Transit, GG1s pulling freight, the E44s and E33s before they went. And in town, less than half a mile from where I grew up, the Raritan River Railroad went through. And the Raritan River was a short line that connected New Brunswick with South Amboy, New Jersey. And it's just a tiny little short line. It's one of those that fought Conrail for a long time.
So what scale, what was he modeling?
He started, like most kids, he started with O gauge, and then he went to HO because he wanted realism.
More
he wanted something that was going to be prototypical. He
Right.
wanted something that was real when Lionel wasn't putting out anything like that.
Right,
So it was really just Lionel. Well, I was born. We did everything around the Christmas tree, and it was, I want to say, probably early 1990s, and the first scale trains were really coming out and were becoming more affordable. And we were at a train show one day looking for Lionel stuff, and there were these beautiful chassis system SD40-2s made by a company called Weaver. And the price wasn't bad. Yes, Weaver. Right. Yeah, Weaver's since out of business.
Yes,
they
but they built beautiful stuff.
Oh, exactly.
They built 2 railroad scale.
So that was the thing, is we're looking at these things, and the Lionel SD40 that they had, which is the biggest engine they made, it was boxy and it was fat, and it looked okay. And then all of a sudden, you see this beautiful O gauge scale engine, and it was like, we need that. So we bought the first one, took it home. This is before any DCC. This is before any of the electronics. This is, the DCS with MTH or with the, command control for Lionel. And it was running backwards. We couldn't figure out why it was running backwards because they had E-units. And that's one of the big things they have in O gauge. They have electronic E-units to cycle through. So we figured the guy had...
Run that one past me again. They have... What?
So...
In
HO, if you want running DC, you usually just reverse polarity. You just throw the switch, and that's forward and backwards.
Right.
In O gauge, when you have the power on, you have to tell it what direction you want it to go into.
Okay.
So that's why they have an electronic reversing unit. So the electronic reversing unit cycles through neutral, forward, neutral, reverse.
Okay.
Neutral, like that. Well, when we got this engine, put it on the track, it went neutral, reverse. It was fine, but it was just annoying because every time you turned it on, you had to cycle through.
Right.
So, 12-year-old, 11-year-old kid who's enterprising and says, hey, Dad, he had 2. Maybe the other one starts in forward. Next thing you know, we went to the next train show. The guy was there, bought the second one, and I had scale trains. And I said, this is awesome with little Lionel cars. So nothing really made sense.
Yeah.
My dad's friend, and this is going back to, if you notice, I can't finish a story.
No.
Because I started about why the club split away. Well, when the club,
that was a long time
That
ago.
was a long time ago,
Yeah, it was
yes.
a couple of years
I'm
ago.
circling around.
Yeah.
So the original club was known as the Raritan Valley High Railers. And one of the people that started the club was a guy named Steve Horvath, whom my father worked with.
Okay.
So Steve Horvath liked trains. My dad liked trains. Both worked for... It was probably Bell Atlantic at the time. And he was saying, you should come to the show. We'll talk. They would see each other at the shows. They would talk to one another. And he's like, is your son old enough to run trains? He's like, yeah, we got this at home. And he's like, well, next show I want you to bring trains and you're going to pull. And you guys can run inside the layout and give it a shot and see if you like it. And I was at that perfect age.
Yeah.
Where the hook was set.
Yeah.
And
And
I didn't spit it. Set, and it's been like that from
And I'm
then
interested. I'm meeting more and more people where their fathers were, because as time goes by, my dad was a World War II guy.
God bless.
So trains in the 30s weren't really a thing, model trains. There was some, but
if you could afford them.
Yeah, but that's the same all the time. But as soon as I got sprinkled with pixie dust in the hospital, model railroad pixie dust, and I was hooked right out of the crib. And then he worked for IBM, and they had a good club. And the club, the adults accepted me in, and a month later, my dad was hooked. But so your dad, sounds like your dad was a regular model railroader from the age of 5 kind of thing.
Yes. I'm not sure why. Unfortunately, he passed away too young for me to really find out exactly what got him into it. I'd love to know more of the motivation.
Sure.
He was the youngest of his siblings, and his dad had died young. So I wish I knew.
Yeah.
But he would go. There was also a little hobby shop in New Brunswick that he would go to, and he would go to the hobby shop. He would go up to the train station on lunch hour. All the other people would goof off during lunch, and he was watching trains and taking pictures.
So how many members do you have in this club?
We're actually not a very large club. I want to say we have 8 members.
Do you have a Facebook page?
Yes, we do.
What's it called?
That's a great question.
Let's stop there. Are some of the questions I've asked not been that good?
They've been mediocre at best. I am kidding with you. I apologize.
No, I'm hurt now.
No,
I'm hurt.
it's okay. No, I think the questions have been excellent.
Oh, okay.
I would say my responses have been tougher because I tend to talk, as I've mentioned.
I guess what threw me is I've never had anybody say, "What's the name of your Facebook?" and say that's a great question. That's kind of like saying, "Hey, what's your name?" I forget, John. What is your name?
Well, as a 8th grade history teacher with kids,
Ralph introduced
social media ends up being something that I am incredibly conscious of and incredibly fearful of because of how it has set the hook in our society.
Okay.
So we do have a Facebook page. We actually just created it this spring. I believe it's Independent High Railers, New Jersey.
Independent High Railers, New Jersey on Facebook.
I believe so, yes.
All right.
I can do research if you would like
Everybody
me to.
look
However,
it up.
I feel like that's rude during...
Yeah, I would think so.
Yes.
And the thing you have to understand about the podcast, and I'm sure you're going to start listening to it now, the thing you have to understand about the podcast, this particular one, the AML Nation, the Modeler's Life, is transparency is paramount to us. And we try to be as transparent as possible. Accuracy is really nothing more than a second thought. So I think you're close enough with your name. If people can't find it from that kind of guidance, then you really want them as members of your page anyway.
This is where our society is unfortunately heading. I've reached the age where when everyone's a kid, why do parents complain about this? Why are they so angry about this? I've hit that age. I understand exactly why my dad was so angry.
How old are you?
I am 41.
Okay, you've hit that age.
I'm a wee babe compared to some of the other people here, but being able to come out here is something that I never knew I needed, if that makes any sense.
You never knew what?
I never knew that I needed because growing up in my club, I started the club. Not started, but I joined the club when I was 11 years old, and most of the members of the club were always older. I never had a lot of people in the club and a lot of people that I liked to train, rail fans or modeled with that were my age.
Okay, let me ask you this. This is an interesting question. Let me ask you, at the age of 41, like my son is 37, and he didn't really have super access to the internet. It was dial-up and everything. I mean, those years, he was probably 10 or 12, 13 before the internet became something that was easy to use.
Oh, definitely.
And so you're in the kind of the same situation. You must have been like, 15, 16 before the internet became easy to use?
Oh, yeah. I was in college.
And did you notice an immediate difference of people you were able to connect with in the hobby?
No.
No.
Because that social media thing has never really
been a thing you like.
It's just never been something for me.
Okay, well.
And I never was one to reach out, and it very random how I even fell into this. Drac Trabacchino, who you had interviewed multiple times, he is the brother-in-law of my neighbor.
Okay, of course he is.
Yeah, my neighbor was having a party, and we were talking one day. And he's like, my wife says, he has a train show this weekend. And he was like, you like trains? My brother-in-law likes trains. His name's Jack. I said, of course. When I got very jaded for a while. And you generally, when you hear that somebody likes trains, you figure it's either someone that's into Thomas,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that, or it's someone that is into, as a three-railer, it's going to be somebody that's into toy Lionel trains.
Sure.
Well, the next party they had, I met Jack, and we must have talked for hours. Because he is also a three-rail high railer, and he's showing me pictures when he would go run up, I believe it was Babs
Yep.
layout, and of what he was doing. He's like, oh, I have a friend named Dave, and he does operating sessions at his house.
Yeah,
And I said,
Dave-
I've heard about that.
The Babs had a great layout, and they found Babs because Dave's dad
Was dating
her.
Yes.
And then they were able for several years to use this layout. And then one day at Babs's, they're at a school thing for one of Babs's grandchildren, and Dave's dad dumped her.
Yep. Heck of a story.
Which I'm thinking, man, I wish I'd been there to see that.
I mean,
At her granddaughter's recital or whatever it was, he gets to the end of it and he goes, I got news for you. I'm never coming back.
but if I remember correctly, Dave was still able to go over and run trades.
For a while. Yeah, for a while.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
But
All right.
that's how I got into this. Is Dave's he invited me to one of Dave's operating sessions.
Okay.
And when like I said, with the hook getting set with that Weaver ST40-2,
And then you
the
got
hook
the-
got set with the operating on the Onondaga cutoff.
And how often do you do that?
Not often enough.
Why not? How far away is it?
Oh, for me, 30 minutes, 35
So then
minutes.
why can't you go on a regular basis?
I have 2 younger children.
Right.
And, do
you have a wife?
I
Do you have
do
a
have a
wife?
wife, yes.
Well,
Very
that's their
loving,
job.
awesome
That's
wife.
Their job. The woman's
Not at
job.
all. It is a
Absolutely.
partnership.
You've fallen into this modern way of being. You just, you know what? You just tell her, I'm going. You know what you say next time you want to go to Dave's? You just say, well, Lionel says I can go.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes over.
Yeah, Ralph seconds that.
Yeah, but
Ralph won't bail you
Of
out.
course- no,
Ralph will not bail you out.
no. Actually, Ralph's usually one of the reasons I get to go.
Yeah,
Ralph said, it's like, oh, Ralph's going. I'm going to drive with him.
Ah,
She
there
doesn't
you
like
go.
me driving home too late.
Okay,
My wife likes most of my friends.
but not Ralph.
No, she does like Ralph. Doug? Just kidding. She loves Doug too. Me?
Well, what friend doesn't she like?
That's what I said, me.
Oh, well, you're not her friend.
Yeah, I'm her husband.
Yeah.
It's worse.
Okay. Well,
No, I'm very lucky. I've got an awesome wife, but I don't know that I have that whole guilt that comes in. And I had a great relationship with my dad, but he had your mentality. And that mentality was, you know what? I'm working. When I come home from work, I'm tired. I do everything. There's food on the table. There's a roof over your head. There's clothes on your back. When I need a chance to go out in the garage and, tinker around with something, leave me alone.
right. Well, let me tell you a little story about one time I was laying down the law about what I was going to be doing, and I just missed a shoe that was thrown at my head. So it doesn't work all the time.
No, it does not.
It's an acquired skill.
And that's what I'm saying. It's not so much about laying down the law. It's that guilt that I feel to be away from my wife and my
Sure.
kids.
Okay, that's good.
And,
Makes you a good family man.
Yeah, my kids and my wife and my my
makes you a
family,
good-
everybody. That's where it comes in.
Makes you a good family man, salt of the earth.
Well, but going to Dave's is going to Cresson.
once, yeah. But like Dave hasn't had an operating session for 5 months, so you should be able to slip in on that
I
one.
know, and the next one is afternoon one where I have 3 different parties to go to that day.
Well, maybe the problem isn't your wife. Maybe the problem is that you're just too popular.
I wouldn't say that. It's my family. It's not me. I'm just
3
dragged along for the
parties
ride.
in one day?
It's 2 parties. I'm a teacher, so I tend to overestimate. And I teach history, so nothing I say is ever true.
Okay, so when I had my history teacher in are you high school?
I am 8th grade, so
Okay.
I'm not good enough to be high school.
You seem like you got a bit of a complex.
I am very self-deprecative in my humor.
All right.
That's just how I've been. Sometimes I lay it on a little thick.
All right. Well, if I was one of your students and I continually failed to hand in my homework assignment,
Yeah.
would that be a problem?
Now, in all fairness, would that be a problem in the current world, or would that be a problem when you were a kid?
Think of me as 14-year-old me.
In 2023,
Yeah.
it's 8th grade.
Yeah.
It's not going to go on your permanent record.
All right.
And I'll give I will call your parents. I'll talk to you on the
Oh,
side.
my
I'll pull you
God.
in.
You
we'll do
have
the little
to get
thing.
my parents involved.
Of course, you're going to
for
fail.
crying out loud.
If you're not doing your work, you fail. Simple as that. You got to learn the lesson eventually. You don't do your work at McDonald's, guess what? You lose your job.
What kind of history are you teaching?
I teach ancient history.
Oh,
Exactly.
that's
The
riveting.
redheaded stepchild of the history department.
That's riveting.
Oh, I love it. Getting to talk about the comparisons of the fall of the Roman Empire to what we're currently living through.
You know how long we've been
Nobody
talking?
cares.
I gotta find.
I have no clue.
I care. You know how long we've been talking? Let me see. I'm going to get my glasses on.
It is almost 1 o'clock.
We've been talking for 30 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Between you and Ralph, we've almost done a whole show.
Oh, that's fantastic. We didn't even talk about what the deal with Cresson is. Or no, Cresson Chronicles.
These are Cresson Chronicles.
Yes.
How long you been coming?
I've only missed 1 year in the past 6 or 7.
How'd you get invited originally?
Same thing through Dave's.
Through Dave.
Yep.
Dave invited you?
Dave invited me,
You
yes.
went to Dave's.
Went to Dave's, did a few operating sessions at Dave's, fell right in.
Fell right in.
Mm-hmm.
The guy offers you to come to Cresson, wants you to be part of his gang,
Yeah.
wants you to feel the love.
Oh, I am
And you-
drinking the Kool-Aid, 100%.
And you can't put yourself out to go to 4 or 5 operating sessions a year.
There's a lot of Dave's I don't know if you noticed this, but Dave's a very popular guy.
He is. But
And trying to get on the Onondaga cutoff, extra board.
Aren't you on
Crazy.
even on the extra board?
Well, if I'm able to make it, I can get myself on the extra board.
Well,
I'll work onto it.
he sends you out the email list.
Yes, I'm on
So
the
then
list.
why don't you immediately say, I'm on?
That's a really good point.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
But I think, like I said, it comes back to,
I think we're done, buddy.
yeah.
Yeah, we're done for this interview. You're disappointing me that you're not putting your.
You're not the only one. Disappoint a lot of people, including my students.
It's once every few months. For crying out loud! Ralph's got on another shirt.
It was once every month it's usually once a month, and you take a couple of weeks off in the summertime.
All right. All right. There you go. All right. Say goodbye, John.
Goodbye, John.
Okay, Ralph. We're on the air.
Excellent.
This may be the most unusual interview I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah, because hold that microphone a little closer.
Yeah, you go. How's that sound?
Let's say something again.
La 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 la.
You just got to keep the microphone up here.
All right. Well, I could do that.
'Cause if you're gonna-
you would think I would know how to do this because I'm a musician.
Yeah, because you're a musician. You know,
Exactly.
you see, whenever you watch Willie Nelson, I always tell people, watch Willie Nelson do Georgia on My Mind.
Okay.
And he's like, Georgia.
Georgia.
And the microphone is like right there,
Well, yeah.
right? He's not wandering around. waving
That's
at
why.
her.
That's why Willie is a professional and I am not.
Don't you get paid?
I do. That doesn't make me a professional.
It does. You know what happened to me when I was writing for Model Railroader?
No, it's that.
I said to my editor, who was a former English professor at Harvard,
Okay.
and I said to him after I was about a year in, I said, "Man, it'd be cool someday to be like a real author." And he says, "Aren't they paying you for this?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "You're
Then
a
you're a real
author.
author. Yeah.
If you're a real musician, if they're paying you, buddy."
Well, thank you. Yes, I mean, I like to say that I'm smarter than the average bear, but I don't do it for a living. That's why I say I'm not a
Right,
professional.
and I didn't really indicate at any point that I thought you were smart.
Touche. Touche.
You assumed that because
yes,
merely because you could carry on a conversation.
I guess so. Yes, there are a lot of people who are much more intelligent than I that cannot carry on a conversation. That is true.
So I'm calling these the Cresson Chronicles.
Ooh, the Crescent. I like that
Because last year
rolls
was,
off the tongue.
Yeah, last year was What's Wrong with Dave?
That's true.
What's
There's
what's
still
the
a lot
deal
of
with-
things wrong with Dave.
Yeah, what's the deal with Dave?
Yes.
So why are you going? So now let's tell everybody we literally started this 3 minutes before midnight. It'll be the first time I've ever interviewed anybody in the AM
Interesting.
after midnight.
Okay.
After midnight.
We're all gonna let it all hang out.
There you go.
Dun, 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 dun,
So
dun,
now
dun,
the
dun.
reason we're
Nobody will
doing
figure
it
that.
after midnight in the dark, sitting on the porch of the Station Inn in Cresson, Pennsylvania, is because after this you're going to go home.
Well, on Sunday morning I'll go home. Right?
I thought you weren't staying. after
no.
tonight.
It's Friday, right? Please tell me it's Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Okay, good. No, I'll be here all day tomorrow.
Oh, you indicate.
No, I
you led me along. You led me along. Now,
here we
come
go.
on now. Here we go. There's a problem.
Hey, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
All right.
All right. Let's talk about why I have this beautiful Lackawanna Railroad shirt.
Yeah, I know. It's sweet.
For a person that's been interviewed on this podcast multiple times, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was featured in a
Exactly.
and I was going to interview him again,
The
but
Morrison Essex division, you know?
Yeah.
Beautiful black shirt with a nice pocket
in
on it.
Lackawanna and Western, isn't it?
Yeah. Delaware, Lackawanna,
Yeah.
and Western. But
And it's gorgeous.
I know. And I can't understand why you don't have one.
I know, like Rich says, Rich Winiski, the Wiz.
Yes, the Wiz.
He said, well, did you ask him? And I'm like, do I have to?
You know, some things should just be assumed, shouldn't they, Lionel?
Yeah.
Exactly.
He sent me a T-shirt with a banana on it. No, a hot dog.
Oh.
He sent me a T-shirt.
A Hot
with
Dog Johnny's T-shirt?
I think it was.
Very
The
nice. I don't
yellow
even,
one.
I don't even have one of those. I see where this is going.
I know. He has a peculiar way of dealing with his friends.
Yeah. I've noticed that, you know, the hot trend as of late, everybody does stickers for their layouts.
Yeah, I know. Well, I started that.
Did you? Okay.
I did.
All right. But my point in saying that is that here in New Jersey, we tend to do T-shirts. So I'm wearing my beautiful Lehigh Valley Harbor Terminal Railroad
That's your
T-shirt for my layout.
Yeah,
which,
I don't have one of those either.
No, but you know what? I think there's one hiding in
Okay.
spare room back in New Jersey.
What size do you wear?
Mine's an extra large,
Just the extra, not double?
not double.
You like
The
some skin
flock
tight?
is getting thicker and Leon's getting larger. Yes.
You like them skin tight, do you?
This guy. Anyway, what else would you like to talk about? Because I have something that I would like to talk about
Okay.
after you're done.
Well, no, let's hear what you got to talk about, and we'll see where it leads us.
I was actually thinking there are two gentlemen here. One is sitting to my right. One is sitting below me. I think that in some future podcast, you might want to think about talking to them. They are members of a three-rail scale modular club. Do I have that right, Johnny? High rail.
What's Johnny's name?
John Zelehoski.
John, what's he?
Zelehoski.
Zelehoski.
He's Polish. Cut him some slack.
Okay, and how do you know John?
Through Dave. It seems like everybody I know is almost either post Dave or pre Dave. He's post Dave. Yes.
Well, let's ask him bluntly. John, would you like to be interviewed about your club?
Of
course.
That sounds like a rousing.
That sounds
positive.
like a rousing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
All right,
practically
tomorrow.
wrestling me for the microphone.
Tomorrow we'll do that because we're not going to do all of our interviews in the AM.
He is
why?
he is leaving in the morning. He's the one.
Well, then we'll do yours after this one.
He's you know what? He's
I got time.
he's gonna make the time.
I'm going to make time. When it comes to podcasting, I got the time.
But that's one of the things that I'm glad that you're here and that we're talking and whatnot because I thought about that for a while now. That I think talking about their modular experience is something that I don't think I've heard on any of your shows. With I know you've had O-scale modelers
Right?
on the podcast, but these guys they're a little bit different.
You can help me with something.
Sure, what's that?
I've recently, within the last 6 months, stumbled across a YouTube video.
Okay.
And it's called Norm's Trains. And
Okay.
he has this 3-rail O-scale layout
Really?
that's modeled like as well as, Tony Custer-esque,
Okay.
Perry Squire-esque, that kind of quality of modeling and weathering.
That's a high bar.
That's a high bar,
That's
and
a high
he
bar.
meets it. And so I finally kind of got a hold of him. I said, man, this guy's got to be on the podcast because he's got a story to tell. He's got this beautiful railroad.
Okay.
And it's 3-rail O-scale, but it looks like, for all intents and purposes, a model railroad as people would recognize a model railroad.
Okay.
And so I sent him a email. It took him a while to get back to me. He apologized, of course. But I said, I'm very slow with emails, too. But then he said to me, I listened to a couple of your podcasts, and they're pretty cool. I'd like to be on. But what exactly have you got in mind?
Okay.
So I haven't answered yet because I'm thinking, with my little brain,
Sure.
I'm thinking, I ask you questions and you answer them.
It seems pretty. I mean, on the face of it, yes, it really is that simple. And I'm people can't see it right now, but I'm scratching my head trying to do the old, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if he wants me to have prepared questions, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. That's not how you do. That's not how you roll. Lionel.
That's not how I roll.
That's not how you roll.
No, I roll a certain way, and that's not it. So when did you get here? Today?
No, I arrived here just literally minutes behind Dave on Wednesday afternoon. We got here about 2:30.
So you're doing the whole weekend.
Oh, I always try to do the whole weekend.
I know, but last year you took off.
I had to, and I had a gig. Now, that's why Johnny has to leave early in the morning tomorrow, because he has to get back to Jersey to take his...
All right, hang out.
Oh, we got...
Josh, what kind of train is this?
Just a light set of helpers.
A light set of helpers going by.
Stereo.
We have Josh out here telling us whatever's going on.
He's got his finger on the pulse of
railroading
of what's moving over the mountain.
Cresson. So what did you do today?
Oh, what did I do today? Today, our trip was to Bennington Curve.
I wanted to go there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I missed out on that one.
That's another,
Well,
Dave dropping the ball.
I got to see it last year.
That's true. That's right. You did come with us. That's right. Yes. Actually, no. Did I make Bennington last year? Maybe I did not.
I don't think you did.
I don't know. I think that was probably the day of the Saturday that I left.
Yes.
Yes. But anyway, no. It's I like that spot. It's much easier to get in and out of. Yes. We actually had the problem. They had dropped ties on the shoulder of the ballast.
Yeah, because it's a very...
Or the ballast shoulder, I should say.
So to give people a kind of a wordsmith thing, you drive towards Gallitzin.
And
right?
And
then everybody piles into pickup trucks.
Yep.
And then we drive along this road, and then we end up right on the ballast.
Literally on the ballast, yes.
Literally on the ballast. And then you drive along there for 300, 400, 500, 600 feet, and then the road turns away again. And you park there, and then you walk in this rest of the way. And the walk is pretty easy.
Yeah, the walk. If a little muddy, it is an easy walk. But yeah, no, they had dropped the ties, and so we had to get out. Of course, blazing sun.
Yes.
It's noon. We're trying to pick up, I don't know how heavy ties are these days, but they're treated, from what I'm told, in a wonderful mixture of copper and some other wonderful chemical to preserve. No more creosote.
No.
Now it's copper and something else. And I'm sure somebody out there who's listening is probably screaming right now, it's blah, blah, blah. And
yeah.
I don't know what it is. It doesn't smell good.
Right.
It's a heavy metal, so you don't really want it on your hands. And, of course, I didn't have gloves. But we had to roll them because they're too heavy to pick up. And we got those out of the way and got down there. And we had a great train watching session. 7 trains while we were there.
Right.
And as we were leaving, the last train, the skies opened up. And we got a nice little,
shower?
Got a nice little shower, yeah.
But this is where Bennington Curve is, where there's a very peculiar rock that sticks out.
Yes.
And if you're brave enough to stand on it, and it's not particularly dangerous, but you're almost over the side of the train.
Yes. It's very discerning for a first-time visitor.
Yes.
But
Tons
wow,
of
we got
fun.
like a whole crowd coming out from downstairs.
I know.
Jeez.
Well, I guess they know we're here.
Well, yeah. Everybody wants to,
Everybody wants to hang around with fame.
Everybody wants a piece. That's right.
Everybody wants a piece of your shirt. So what's new? So what's news? So did you hear we interviewed John McGuire?
No, I did not.
The guy that installs the lights and everything?
Yeah, I know who he is. He's done some of my engines.
Yeah.
He does
And
excellent work.
And you steered Dave towards him.
Yes, I did.
And he's, what does he call his thing? Garden State LLC or something?
Garden State Model Works. And I'm sorry, John, for mangling the name of the company, but he does incredible work. And I'm very happy with the piece that he did for me, and I intend to send more his way.
And how did you find him?
I believe Facebook.
Really?
I believe it was a Facebook ad, and I just, I rolled the dice, and I wanted low sound decoders in my engines. That's not what our good T-shirt friend Tom Schmieder does. He does soundtracks.
You're right.
Tom was busy. Tom is busy working on his layout. So John was more than happy to, do that work for me, and the rest is just wonderful oral history because it sounds so good.
So let's give a little bit of see if we can give a little bit of tip to modelers.
Sure.
Because you said you found them through Facebook and maybe an ad.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything that kind of tipped you off that you kind of, after either talking to him or something, you decided, hey, you know what, this is going to work out. I'm going to send him a locomotive.
Well, he very quick turnaround time. He was very responsive. I mean, I would send him a message, and I would almost get an instant message in return. So there was no I'm going to message him on a Monday, and I might hear from him on a Wednesday.
Right.
So there was that. That's as a businessman, you want to be responsive to your customers.
For sure.
His pricing I felt was on par, with what I wanted to spend. He worked with me. Oh, do you want this? How I can do this for you? He actually took the engine back just before shipping because he and another friend of mine were able to download the proper sound files. So they re-uploaded the RS1 sound files to get a better product for me.
He seems like a very responsible young man.
He is. I would agree with that. And I met him at a show not too long ago. Actually, face to face.
He got to meet face to face.
Yeah. So I was just at a table, and he comes up, and the guy goes, "Hey, John," and I know what he kind of looked like from Facebook, and I go, "John McGuire," and he goes, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Ralph Heiss, blah 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 blah. Nice to meet you." And so on and so forth.
So what would you say your model railroading career is right now? Is it primarily building a layout, primarily operating on other layouts, primarily designing a layout? Where are you at right now?
Primarily operating on other layouts like Dave's, Perry's, Tony's. I have to get some house projects done, and then I can get back on mine. So the she who must be obeyed said, no working on that until you do this. She's right. So.
And what is your layout going to be?
It's going to be the Lehigh Valley in New York Harbor in the 1950s. Really the other side of the river from what Dave Ramos is doing.
Right.
So.
And, are you in, what stage are you at?
It's built. It's wired. I would say 95% of the track work is done.
Really?
It just needs to be
used?
Bulletproofed.
Yes.
So, that's important.
That's a key for an operating railroad.
Yes, it is.
It's got to be bulletproof. Scenery and structures and cars, it's almost come secondary. The track the track and the electrical system
you can have
have to be bulletproof.
You can have the nicest looking cars and the nicest looking engines, and they're all detailed. And your track can be quality museum workers, but if it doesn't work, it ain't worth beep.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. How many layouts would you say you operate on a regular basis?
3 to 4. In New Jersey.
Okay, and they would be?
They would be Tony's nickel plate,
right?
Perry's Pittsburgh Showmut, Dave's Onondaga Cutoff, the other Dave's New York Harbor Railroad, and until, as you well know, because you interviewed him and my other friend at the NERPM, Jim Hamoki's Newark Terminal.
Yeah.
So.
That was terrible.
That was terrible, and I don't want to say happy, but I was happy to be able to have helped him recover from that.
You were happy
to be able
to aid your assistants and
to help a friend.
Try to make it as easy as possible.
Yes, to help a friend, and that's what That's what this hobby. That's what any hobby. That's what life should be all about. Is helping your friends. So.
This hobby, though, seems to. I think this hobby now cultivates a camaraderie that's very unusual.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And there's some people who go more out of their way to make that happen. Again, and I don't think I need to name names. I think you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
He's downstairs somewhere drinking beer.
Another guy two guys I very much admire along that way is Dave Owens, who runs NERPM.
Yep.
And John Sacradotti, who runs the Springfield show.
Yes, I met John once, and I am friends with Dave.
Yeah. And last time I was at John's, he had this beautiful RS1, Green Mountain RS1 running around.
Really?
Yeah, I visited his layout, and I followed as he was talking to other people. I followed and thinking, man, the sound is beautiful, and I have no use for this locomotive other than it's an RS1, and I love those, and that's really, really cool. But boy, what a cool locomotive. John's finished talking to his guests.
Right.
Comes over to me, and I say, man, I love this locomotive. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Blah, blah, blah. You want to buy it? Well, I really have no use for it, John. Well, you want to buy it?
Right.
Well, I really have no use for it, John.
But do you want to buy it?
How much would you want for it? $150. Sold.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's... Some things are just too good to pass up. You
And
know?
then when I was telling my friend David Start later, I said, I bought it because it was pretty.
I know all those guys, like I said, through going up in past years to, Dave's RPM meet. And actually, my other friend, Ted Diorio, we used to, him and...
He's a great guy.
He's a character is what he is.
He's a character,
Yes.
but he's got a great personality.
Yes, Ted's also a very lifelong friend, long before I knew the other Dave. And we used to do that. We used to do the weathering table together.
Okay.
Yeah, him, myself, and Dave Ramos used to do that as a threesome. And
Why'd you stop?
I just, with not being able to go to maybe a year's meet or just not having the time, not having the time, not having the money.
Sure.
So, and this year things conflicted, so
Right.
I couldn't go because we had just come back. The other Dave and I had come back from ProRail in Kansas City.
Ah, yes.
That was our big trip this year.
Did they mention me at all out there?
Not that I know of. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing,
I
not
think
that
I've been.
know of.
I think I've been banned from ProRail for life.
Well, this was my first time back in 10 years.
Well, I think I was banned for life.
Oh, jeez. Maybe it's a good thing I didn't say, hey, my friend Lionel.
Yeah, you want to be very careful with that.
Well,
Very
one of the hosts was a very good longtime friend of a friend here back in New Jersey, and I think it was a combination of knowing certain
Yeah, sure,
hosts,
absolutely.
and my name got put on the list.
Good. You deserve to go.
So
You and Dave would have had a great time. What are your plans? We'll finish with this.
yeah, we'll finish. What time is it?
At 12:17
Wow.
a.m.
Oh yes,
on July the 29th.
sounds about right.
I've never done an interview at this late or early.
Well,
I like this. This is
right,
cool.
depending on how you look at it. Yes.
Yeah, and we've managed to chew up. Let me look on the counter here. 20 minutes.
My goodness, I think this
This
might
is
be a new
a-
record for me.
No, I think you've been a bit 20-minute guy.
Okay.
You're always interesting.
Well, thank you.
You're connected. That's the thing. You have a long history in model railroading in this area.
Yeah. Whether it's
Like, did you start when you were 5 like everybody else?
well, I mean, I started playing with
trains.
L trains when I was 5, but I didn't seriously as a model railroader probably not till I was 13 or 14.
Right.
So, and
But
I'm
you're
53
5.
now.
I have this theory, and I really want I'm not kidding. I have this theory, and I really like your opinion upon it, because I see you as a worldly man.
Thank you.
I'm beginning to think that people who enjoy trains are so infected with that pixie dust that I think what happens is there's a train ferry that goes from hospital to hospital,
Okay.
picking out individual babies, sprinkling them with train pixie dust.
There you go.
Because once it's in your system, you can't get it out.
You can't get rid of it. And yeah, you're right. And some of us get heavier doses than others. But yeah, no, it does. I think it's. I want to say I don't necessarily think it's unique to model railroading because there's so many hobbies
Absolutely.
out there. The model boat guys and the model plane guys, gosh, I lean on what they're doing for weathering all the time because the military modelers
Oh, yeah.
are the stuff that they've done and do, but you can, if you take the time to look at it, you can make it work for model railroading. I mean, I know Ted touched on that in your interview with him, but it's true. But yeah, it is. It's something that's, I don't know if I could ever walk away from it.
Yeah, I don't think I could. There's just no way.
It's
So
like
what do you-
music,
It is. All right, now 2 last questions.
Sure.
Do you think I could ever talk Perry Squires into being on the podcast? That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. I don't think he would. I think it would take a concerted effort, a little bit from myself, and maybe Dave, and a couple others.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think he'd have a very interesting story to
Oh,
tell.
I no doubt that he would. I just don't know if it's his cup of tea.
Yeah,
But I definitely think he would make it very, very interesting.
And I think you need to explain to him that it's not really a cup of tea. It's simply a conversation.
Exactly.
He doesn't have to have any particular talent.
Sure.
He
But
just
he
has
does.
to be able to talk
Yes.
and be enthusiastic.
Absolutely.
So that's my first question. And my second question is, between now and Springfield, because
Yes.
we'll see each other again in Springfield.
Absolutely.
We'll end up sitting behind the desk.
Yes, we will.
Tables. And I'll say, hey, Ralph, we're at Springfield, and it's Ralph Heiss. We should actually have you on the podcast more. what is your plans? What do you see is happening in your model railroading world between now and Springfield?
I hope to get my house project done and get that thing dusted off, so by the end of the year, I can actually have my friends come over and we can
Start working.
get this thing rolling.
Do you ever go over help Tom Schmieda?
Yes, I haven't, and that's probably That's why I was amazed that I got a T-shirt, because I haven't been over to help Tom, in months.
Yeah.
It's summertime. He does a lot of daytime work sessions. I have a 9-to-5 job, so I just haven't been able to.
I'm surprised that I put him on the podcast. He got a tremendous amount of likes. Tremendous amount of exposure. I would have thought, and he'd already sent me a T-shirt with a hot dog on it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Like you do.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, okay, I see you walking around, and I'm thinking, is it lost in the mail?
Don't worry, I'll work on that for
Okay,
you.
your job is to work on Perry Squires
Okay, and Tom.
and Tom.
All right.
Is Tom here this weekend?
No, he is not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's doesn't make a lot of us very happy that he's not here, but
Yeah,
he has
Tom's
he has things that he wants to do, that he needs to do, and I respect
is
that.
Is he crazed now?
Is he crazed? Oh, he's always been crazed, but
I know, but is it like he seems to be extra crazed?
he is working towards a self-imposed deadline, and I hope that he makes his deadline, because
Well, sure, everybody
he
does.
wants to be able to show some out of town people that we're having later this fall, and he wants to be able to
Right.
show that it actually does work, and it does work. He can run something around the entire perimeter of the basement, but that doesn't make the layout done.
Right.
And he's trying to get there, and it's a lot of wiring. It's just a lot
ton
of
of
wiring, ton of wiring.
And is he a wiring guy, or does he have
Well,
help?
his dad worked for Bell Labs, so he learned at a early age how to solder and run wire, and
Right.
be very retentive about it.
What's your favorite part of model railroading?
Operations.
Okay, after operations, when it comes to construction, what part of construction are you interested in?
Track laying.
Track laying, yeah?
Track laying, yeah.
Do you do any custom work?
No, it's all commercial.
What do you prefer to use?
I really fell in love with Pico.
Everybody, a lot
yeah.
of people have been falling in love with Pico.
Yeah, I started with Pico because when I first built my first layout, I had very, very little room. I needed the sharp Pico turnouts, but in reality, that never really would have worked because they're too tight.
Right.
So as I graduated and learned more what was out there and available, I used their Code 83 North American prototype switches and haven't looked back since.
What is number 5 Pico switch running for these days?
Somewhere between, when I was buying them a couple years ago, anywhere between $20 and $30.
Okay.
I'm sure the price has gone up.
That's a discussion you and I could have, because I don't. People start whining about the price of model railroading, and I always. I'm sure you go to music concerts.
Yeah.
You can't get into a music concert. Like if my son and I go to a Leaf game,
Okay.
we sit in the second bowl. Mm-hmm. At the front, we
Right.
get the best seats in the house, basically, but we're sitting one up to save money. And by the time you buy the tickets, that's $250.
Sure.
You buy a couple of $17 beers.
It
You
adds up
spend
real quick.
$350.
And what do you have to show for it?
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's 3 hours worth of entertainment. So I mean, when people are complaining about the cost of model railroad, and I'm thinking, people are spending way more money than that just to go see a hockey game
Exactly.
or a football game.
And model railroading is you can spend as much or as little as you want on it, but I would say that there has to be a certain minimum dollar amount that you have to spend if you want your layout
Yeah.
to. It doesn't have to look. If you want, I think there's two camps. I want it to look good. I want it to run good. They aren't necessarily, codependent on each other.
Right.
A layout that runs well doesn't have to look like a showcase model railroad, but a lot of showcase model railroads that I've seen don't necessarily run well.
Yeah. That I find to be the most annoying of all. Showcase
Yes.
model railroads that don't run well, I find to be a great disappointment.
Yeah. But I think that's a discussion for another time.
I think it is. Well, only because
Yes.
we've now chewed up. Well, look here.
I'm going to go with 42 minutes.
We've chewed up 28 minutes and 42 seconds.
Wow. Okay.
Half an
I
hour,
was way
just
off.
that easy.
All right.
Half an hour, just that easy.
Yep.
And this is
Seamless.
I think I'll make this segment 1.
Okay.
of the Cresson Chronicles.
Excellent.
All right, thanks, Ralph.
Thank you, Lionel.
I love you, Ralph.
I love you too, Lionel.
So, Rich, what'd you think of that show?
It was a very interesting listen.
And which one was your favorite interview?
I'm gonna go with John Zelehoski. He's just such a infectious, exuberant sort of guy, and it was his first time ever on the show. So that's going to be my pick.
That's a good pick because you're right. He's one of those people that he's very, you're right, he's exuberant, infectious, but really quickly you feel like you've been friends with this guy for a long time. I love people like John that speak up, like to have a conversation, like to talk, like to see what the world's got to offer. And that's where the impression I got from John. But Ralph is pretty much the same way too.
Yeah, no question.
And Doug is
Ralph is a lot more sarcastic though.
Yeah. which I'm not, so I enjoy that.
That's part of what makes Ralph Ralph.
Exactly. Ralphie Boy. Hey, Ralphie Boy. Do you think that would bother him if I said that?
I don't know.
I don't think so. My guess is when I see him at Springfield this year, coming up at Springfield, which, by the way, we have our tables all organized, and I still haven't asked him. Uncle Dave wants me to make sure that John Sacerdoti, the show director, who is a lovely, lovely man, he's a great guy. Everybody who gets the chance to meet John Sacerdoti should make a point of it because John is a very nice guy and really cares about the hobby and advancing the hobby, which I believe is one of the reasons the Springfield show runs so well, because he cares about the hobby.
That's great. I've never met him, but I feel like I know him because I've heard him on your program so many times, and he sounds like a really good guy.
Yeah, you would love John. You would. Yeah, it's hard not. John is one of those guys it's hard not to like. And anyways, so we got our 4 tables, but I still got to ask John if we can put on the map the Onondaga cutoff on the map, because Uncle Dave is like, please, can we have the Onondaga cutoff on the map? And I'm like, well, I'm gonna try, but I can't guarantee it because the tables are actually under the name of Modeler's Life, and City Classics. I also keep this sign for City Classics up there from my longtime friend Jim Sacco, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. And he actually had that booth in the Better Living Center for over 30 years. He had that spot, and one of the longest vendors that had been in the same spot. So then when I got to take it over, John Sacerdoti very graciously allowed us to take it over. I have a sign up that says, in honor of Jim Sacco and City Classics.
Absolutely. That's a good tribute.
Yeah.
He was from the Pittsburgh area, right?
He was from the Pittsburgh area, and he was kind of one of the guys that got me, introduced me to Rod Stewart, because he was good friends with Rod Stewart, because Rod used to buy a ton of his kits.
Right. I remember hearing that story.
Yeah. And Jim was a very unassuming guy. He didn't, so he'd be like, Rod, oh, yeah, I was talking to Rod, and I'm like, what? I remember the first time he told me, he says, I was talking to Rod, and he kept referring to this fella as Rod. And finally I said, well, who's Rod? He says, Rod Stewart, the singer. You never heard of him? And I'm like, yes, I've heard of him. How do you know him? Well, he buys my kits all the time. To this point where my favorite Jim Sacco, Rod Stewart story was, Jim was at a concert years and years and years ago, and Rod's performing on stage, and then puts down because he gave Jim front row seats, and puts down on the stage in front of Jim a list of the kits he wanted.
Wow.
During the show. And of course, Jim tells the story in this unassuming, and then at one time he just, he gave me a list while he was at the show. I'm like, what do you mean at the show? Well, while he was performing, he just put it down on the stage and I picked it up.
That's great.
I know. Then we talked to Ralph Heiss, and then we talked to our buddy Doug Watts, former Conrail employee, and right now Uncle Dave's getting all sweaty because I'm saying former Conrail employee Doug Watts. And by the end of the weekend, Doug and I and Alex had all arranged, as I said at the beginning of the show, we had arranged that we have 4 tables, so Uncle Dave's got one, and we use 2 for the podcast, and the third one is going to be the Station Inn in Cresson, Pennsylvania. Yeah. How long does it take you to get to Springfield?
It's a little over 3 hours, maybe 3.5.
Do you think you'll go this year?
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah, you go pretty much every year, don't you?
Well, I've been there, I think, 3 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that all?
Yep.
Of course, again, we should remind everybody, I personally think you're an avid model railroader. You're an itinerant model railroader, apparently.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty apt description.
I have no idea what itinerant means, but I'll take your word for it. And you are, me personally, I say that you're an avid model railroader because one of your great pleasures in life is to visit and be an operator on many, many model railroads in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York City area.
Yeah, I try to get around. Absolutely.
How many in a month would you say on average? How many times a month do you operate?
Probably 4, maybe something like that.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
And do people there's so many layouts to operate in that area. Do people try to kind of coordinate with each other so that they're not stepping on each other's toes trying to get operators? Like Joe Blow's operating on Saturday, so I'm going to operate on Sunday, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Now, let's face it, there's probably a lot more people who have operations and who have operating layouts than I or the group of friends that I'm in know. So I'm sure there are people that get toes that get stepped on, but certainly with the dozen or so or half dozen or so layouts that I go to regularly, there definitely is an attempt made to not step on each other's toes.
Right. Just try to coordinate so guys can kind of operate everywhere.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because especially this time of year in the summer, it's really hard to get enough folks with vacations and other things like that. So, but people are still having sessions.
Really, in the summer, really.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, because now we're thinking about operations, and then as I was asking you, I know that whenever Dave has a session, even though he didn't have one for like 5 months, which really irritated me. And I know you help him with setup night. Yep. And they clean all the locomotive wheels. Dave is like obsessed. But do you help with any other layouts in that form, or is Dave's the only one where you're kind of involved beyond just operating?
There's 2 other layouts where I have helped with things like that. Whether it's going up and turning car cards, or cleaning track, or helping with other paperwork. There's 2 others that I have done that at, not as regularly or faithfully as at Dave's, but I enjoy helping, and I enjoy understanding the big picture of how a layout operates. So to get to be at a place when it's not operating and help get it ready to operate helps me better understand how it really functions.
I actually give Dave quite a hard time about that, about having nights where guys come over. And I've discovered, I think I've done some soul searching, and I think it's actually jealousy and envy, because I never thought of that. And, and I can remember because I would have I had live loads for coal, and I would have 4 trains at one end of the staging and 4 trains at the other, and they'd either have to be filled or emptied. The cars have to be filled or emptied, and blah, blah, blah. And after at first, when I used to give Dave a hard time, but I started realizing, geez, if I'd had a night where I had guys come over to help me get the railroad ready, it would have gone a lot smoother.
Yeah, and it would have resulted in less of your time to get the railroad ready. And I think that's the thing that really made it work so smoothly for Dave is, he was spending a couple hours every night of the week leading up to a session trying to get ready.
Yeah. And
now we just do it all in one night.
Yeah, it's a big job getting a decent-sized railroad ready for operations.
It is. But, by having a group of people there, there's chit-chat, there's people having a drink, and just chilling out. So it's, I like it. I enjoy it.
Well, we've killed another 11 minutes. We've gone way over our allotted time. The network, the guys are telling me behind the glass to pick it up, hurry it up.
Okay.
So our email address is, so this is Monday. This is today is Monday. Don't tell me. Let me guess. Monday, August the, I'm got the calendar out. I'm flipping the pages. I'm looking at it now. And today is Monday, August the 28th. And so if this particular podcast is free, and if you're not already a Patreon member, can I ask you a question, Rich, and try to give me an honest answer?
Absolutely.
Is one podcast a week enough?
Well, I'd like to hear your voice more than once, so I have signed up for the Patreon channel, so I get 2 podcasts a week.
Exactly. In Rich's particular case, and I think that's an excellent example to follow, Rich says 1 podcast a week just isn't enough. You need 2. So if you go to our website and modellerslife.com, well, I guess I didn't say the email address yet, but if you go to our website, modellerslife.com, and you scroll down a little bit, there's a link to our Patreon channel. And for just a few cents a day, you can have twice as much podcasting every week. You can have one on Monday, which is the free channel, and on Tuesday, which is our Patreon channel. And that's more of our front porch, down home, kind of no holds barred, just a family. It's the family. It's the guys hanging around, having a couple of wobbly pops and just talking about the world. It's where our fans podcast is. It's where we answer our viewer mail. Most of the time, it's where Uncle Dave's fireside chats are. It's where the in-depth people that we've talked to before, like when you and I talk about your latest trip to the Cumbers and Toltec, that'll probably end up on the Patreon channel. Because
Very good.
Those are people that are used to our channel and enjoy our channel and want to find out, what certain people are doing.
Hey, can I ask you a question, Lionel?
No, I'm afraid we're out of time.
Well, you may want me to ask this question.
Okay, go ahead.
Did I hear you correctly to say that this is a Monday night show?
I did say that.
So does that mean we have a sponsor?
Yes, it does.
Who's that?
Rapido Trains.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Well, we kind of screwed that up, didn't we? We didn't even mention it at the first part of the show. Oh my goodness gracious!
Well, hockey and Brad Park and golfing all took precedence.
Yeah, I should write a note to myself. I'm very much against posting notes on the computer because every time I do, I end up with like 20 notes and nothing gets done. And I think we all suffer from ADHD these days. I know I do. And so I should have something where it says Rapido Trains on it, but I don't. So I rely on my brain or those that are with me to talk about Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
I mean, there's no way I should actually have a podcast. I am not capable of having a podcast. This is something that's meant for people that are of much more intellect than myself. There's no way I should have a podcast.
I would say that the history would say you're wrong. I mean, what is it, 8 years?
8 or 9, yeah.
Yeah, been pretty successful. So.
August of 2014. So I guess we're 9 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and it took.
You know what that means? That's 9 more years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Gee whiz. I wish we'd remembered at the introduction. Oh well.
Would you like me to give out the email address?
Yeah. Why don't you do that?
If you want to reach us by the wonders of email, please send an email to modellerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers with 1 L like Altoona, not 2 L's like Allegheny.
Wow. Sweet. All right. I think we got everything covered. Oh, I know. Hey, Rich, have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
I'm kind of on a podcast roll right now, so I'll say yes.
All right. Well, if you go to Midwest Model Railroad and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com and go to the scroll across the menu bar to other, and the drop-down menu is the AML shop. Right there, you can buy out. It's a wonderland of AML merchandise: hats, hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, whatever you could possibly need. And in there's a T-shirt with a hot dog on it.
Sounds good.
I think we've done it all now. Thanks to you. If it hadn't been for you, we would have completely screwed it up. When we introduce part 2, you'll be more ready.
I'll try.
I can't imagine I'll be any better at it, but you'll probably be better at it. Do you know what to do now?
I think so.
All right. So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
Cresson visitors.
And now it's time for the New Jersey Transit Elevator Escalator Report. Whether you want it or not. Take it away, Dave.
Good morning, everybody. Plainfield westbound's out this morning for some door modifications. They're going to adjust some of the equipment hardware that came in yesterday, so that should be back later this afternoon. Ridgewood number 2 is out. Vendors en route to take a look at the doors on that one. Those doors are open. At Woodbridge, we had a report of an ADA customer stuck in the elevator. The vendor went there and found the elevator operating normally, so that's back in service. Newark Penn number 9 is out with a skirt panel replacement project, same as last week. And Secaucus number 2, that's one that's out for its step chain replacement and a lower carriage assembly adjustment. So that's still going to be with a good date there of December 1.
It's another Lincoln Homer.